Y'all, my hair once caught fire at a dead man's wedding. This is the story. So, I had been hanging out with this woman that I had met through escorting. So, already, this is going to be a crazy story if the topic didn't tell you enough. But it was a woman I met while I was escorting, and she was getting married. And I knew her for about 3 weeks, and I knew her to be kind of a chaotic person. Surprise, surprise. And not that all sex workers are chaotic, but there's a lot of chaotic sex workers. I certainly was. So at any rate, about 3 weeks after we met, she was getting married, and she invited me to come to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to see the wedding. And that's only about 5 hours from Atlanta. So I went up, and it was I had been hanging out with them a little bit. I knew that the groom was wanted for something, but I didn't know for what. And you can look at it that one or two ways. You can either say that I was smart enough to not ask what he was wanted for, or I was dumb enough not to ask what he was wanted for. But I knew the groom was wanted, and I knew that the best man, who he called his cousin, I don't know if they were actually family or not, was also wanted. And I didn't know for what. Like I said, I'd only known these people for 3 weeks, and I was a criminal. They were criminals. Anyway, so we go to this adorable little chapel in Gatlinburg, and this was the 90s. And so there were like real candles all the way around the chapel, and it was just like, it was absolutely precious. So I get up to go to this, I get up to Gatlinburg, like, and my friend is like, hey, you should be in the wedding. And I'm like, I didn't bring anything to wear. So she loans me a red dress. Okay. So we have a career hooker. She had been hooking for about 10 years at that point, in a white dress. I'm talking about snow white dress. And let me tell you, this woman was so beautiful that when we drove to the chapel, people were literally stopping on the sidewalks to like gawk at her because she looked stunning. Nonetheless, career hooker in a white dress. And then we have me, who has just been talked into being the matron of honor because I was married to my gay friend from high school at the time. That's a whole other story. But I'm in a red dress. So we got two hookers, one in a white dress getting married, and one in a red dress. And then the groom is wanted and the best man is wanted. This is the scene. So I'm standing up, with them. Like I didn't get to watch the wedding. I got to be a part of it. And at one point I had to step away from where I was standing to allow the bride and groom to go over to the unity candle, right? So when I was supposed to step out of the way, I was supposed to step up against the wall and stand beside the preacher. So my friend and her groom are lighting the unity candle, and her song that she picked was from Aladdin. It was A Whole New World is playing, which is like really sweet and kind of cheesy. And I'm standing there and I'm watching her and listening to the music and everything, and all of a sudden I start like smelling something really funny, and I'm like, that smells like burning hair. And about that time I feel the preacher reach behind me and just go with his hand. And then like he goes back to standing there and like doesn't say anything, and the wedding just goes on. But my friend has seen what has happened, and she is laughing so hard behind her veil that she is crying, and like mascara is starting to run down her face. So we get through with the ceremony, and thankfully then I didn't wear any products in my hair, and because I would have gone up like a torch, right? But it didn't burn my hair like too badly. Nobody was hurt, everything was fine. And I was like, we should send this in to America's Funniest Home Videos. Like, this would win. This is freaking hilarious. And they were all like, well, they kind of like put me off about it because I wasn't really thinking. Like, I was very naive, even though I had already been escorting like a couple of years by then. I was still like extremely naive, like no street smarts whatsoever. I don't know how I survived. But so I never got to see the video. We did not put it on America's Funniest Home Videos. So fast forward to 4 years later, I have been on vacations with these people. I was there like literally at the hospital when their son was born. We started a business together. Um, all this thing. Like, I was very involved in these people's lives. And one night I get a phone call, frantic phone call from my friend, and she says, Drew is in jail. And I was like, oh, I had a little more street smarts by then. I was like, okay, that's bad, right? Because I knew he was wanted. And she's freaking out. She's like, you got to come watch the kids so that I can go and try to bail them out. And I was like, okay. So I drive in the middle of the night, like me and my boyfriend, to go to her house to watch her two kids so she can go get Drew out of jail. And I get there and she's in this total panic and she's like freaking out. And I'm like, hey, like, get your shit together and like go get him before they figure out who he is, like before the fingerprints come back or whatever. And because I knew he was living under an assumed name. And she kept going off, and I'm like, just go get him. And she's like, Heather, you don't understand. Drew is dead. And I was like, I was very like stoned at the time. I smoked a lot of weed, and I was like, I thought you said that he was in jail, not dead. And she's like, you don't understand. 4 years ago, or I guess it was like maybe 5 years, I don't know, whatever, sometime before she met me and before they got married, he had faked his death because he was facing a third strike cocaine trafficking charge. Apparently, this person whose wedding I was in was one of the biggest cocaine traffickers in the state of Georgia. And I had no idea, and was also dead, technically. So that is the story about how my hair caught fire at a dead man's wedding. So not all of my content is this entertaining and this like off the wall, but definitely stick around if you want to talk about ethical sales. Ethical works better than sleaze. I do stand-up comedy about my life as a call girl and other things. I do a little bit of music and like open mics for, like singing. Like a folk singer, whatever. Anyway, there's a lot of shit to do on this channel, so I hope you will stick around. Let me know what you think of the story of how my hair caught fire at a dead man's wedding. Bye.